Hey everyone, welcome to the Wealthy. This is episode 54, and I am Lexi Johnson. I'm an international speaker. I am a licensed coach and financial coach and strategist, amongst many other things. But we're here today to talk finances, and this is a continuation from last week. So last week we talked about causes of our cash flow problems, and one of the causes was that we lack allocating, right? And so last week I explained what allocating was. I explained there were four major categories. I explained what those categories were, and I said that this week we would begin taking each one of those categories and breaking them down. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We are going to be talking about the first category. And listen, because we're allocating, they aren't in any particular order because you allocate a certain percentage to them, right? So it doesn't matter what order we talk about them in. But today we're going to be talking about that pay yourself first category. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. And before we get into that, let us do our kingdom money moment, So as you're coming into the room, let us know where you're watching from. Would love to acknowledge you if we're able to see you here in StreamYard. If not, we'll come back a little later in the comments and let you know, or acknowledge you or say hello to you. All right, so today our kingdom money moment is coming from the book of Acts. It's coming from the book of Acts, and it is Acts chapter 20, verse 35. Acts chapter 20, verse 35. I'm reading from the New Living Translation, and it reads, "And I have been a constant example of how you can help those in need by working hard. You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than to receive." Okay, so again, that's Acts chapter 20, verse 35. So very briefly, what I want to say about that scripture and what it has to do with building wealth is that as kingdom citizens, when we build wealth, that our wealth building must be purposeful. Okay, it must be purposeful. And in addition to that, not only is it purposeful, but it is also what purpose, whose purpose, right? Well, the purpose of being a kingdom citizen really is to point everyone to Christ, right? Win souls, make disciples. And one of the ways in which we do that is to meet the needs of people. Okay, when people have a need, we are to do our part as much as we can, if we can, to help them. And there are many scriptures in the Bible that talk about God drawing near to those who are in need. He has, he has heart for people who are in need, and we likewise should have a heart like his, right? And want to do what we can for those who are in need. Now, when we give to those who are in need, it doesn't always have to be money, okay? But since this is a money channel, that's what we're talking about. But giving can be done in many ways. It could be done by giving of your time. It could be done by giving of other resources, clothing, food, shelter, housing, whatever, right? The resources that we obtain are not just for our selfish gain, okay? And so when we are building wealth as a kingdom citizen, we must understand that God is going to give us that wealth, and he's going to increase that wealth if he can trust us to fulfill the purpose of the kingdom with this resource that we call money, okay? So in closing, what I want to say in this segment is that when, as a kingdom citizen, when we are desiring wealth, we really need to make sure that the reason we desire it is in alignment with God's word. And God's word clearly in many scriptures throughout the Bible, Old Testament and New, talks about giving to the poor, okay? Giving to the poor. So our desire, our overall desire, yes, he wants us to be able to take care of ourselves, but he also says in Matthew chapter 6, when we take care of his business, okay, the business of the kingdom, that he will definitely make sure that we are not lacking, right? Okay, so that is our kingdom money moment. Now let's get to our topic for the day. And you guys know me, I don't multitask well at all. So give me just a moment because I wanted to pull up the broadcast on my phone so I can see some other comments if need be. All right. So today we are talking about, last week we talked about causes of cash flow problems. One of the problems was the lack of allocating. And so today we are beginning this series on allocating. Okay. It's a 4-part series. And today we are talking about our pay yourself first category. Okay, our pay yourself first category. We're going to talk about what is in the category, and then how much of what. Okay, that whatever is in that category, how much of what should I have in there? We identified last week that paying yourself first has nothing to do with going on trips. It has nothing to do with, buying those shoes you want or that purse you want. It has nothing to do with, I just want to go hang out with some girlfriends. That has nothing to do with paying yourself first. But paying yourself first has everything to do with making sure that you are set up not only for today, but you are set up for the future. Okay. And so in the pay yourself first category, and I hope you all have your notebooks. I hope you all have your pens, something to write with. I hope you, are covered with all of that because you're going to want to write these things down. All right. So in the pay yourself first category, that is it's also broken down into 4 different things. Okay. So the first is your emergency fund. The second is in your long-term investing or just investing in general. And then the third is your opportunity fund. And the 4th is life insurance. So let me say that again. It's going to be your emergency fund, opportunity fund, long-term, okay, wealth building and investing, okay, and your life insurance. All right, so let's talk about each of these things very briefly. The emergency fund, as I mentioned last week, I've done several videos on those. You can catch that. All I'm going to say about it today is that your emergency fund initially, you should have 3 months of your expenses. Okay, so the money that goes out for the month for the things that you need, right? That is, the things that you need and maybe some of the things that you want. That is what you want to put aside, 3 months worth of that. So for example, let's say your income is $6,000 a month. You spend $5,000 a month. Okay, then your goal would be to get your emergency fund to $15,000. Okay, you should have minimally 3 months. Now, when I work with my private clients, we want to have more than that. So that is like our initial goal. And then after that, we keep adding, right? We get ourselves to 6 months, then we get ourselves to 9 months. And if possible, even get yourself to like a year of your monthly spending. Okay, so that's the emergency fund. The emergency fund should be put in a high yield savings account. Okay, and then it also can be broken further down, and it should be broken down some more between cash, between some gold and silver, and then also like disaster relief type kind of supplies. Okay, so that is, enough food to last you for several months, 3 months or so, maybe longer than that. Enough supplies. So you're talking about candles or lamps, fire burning lamps and kerosene and all these other like disaster relief types of supplies. So a portion of your emergency fund should be broken down into those three things. Okay. So as I mentioned, I've done tons of videos on emergency funds. So you can search for those on YouTube or wherever you are watching this video today. Okay. The next let's talk about is your long-term investing. Okay. Your retirement, your wealth building account. Okay. There is something called your financial independence number. So I can't give you a succinct, number because everybody's financial independence number is different. Okay. So your financial independence number is that amount of money that you're going to need to retire and to stay retired for the rest of your life. Okay. That number can be known. It can be figured out so that you know whether or not you are on track to achieve that. Okay. And if you're not on track, then you'll know it and you can be able to do some things to ensure that you get on track. Okay. So if you're just joining us, this is a continuation from last week. We were doing cash flow problems part 2. Last week I mentioned we would be talking about allocating. So that's where this next 4 episodes are going to be. That's what this next 4 episodes is going to be. And today we are talking about the category of paying yourself first. All right. So we talked about the emergency fund. We talked about your long-term wealth building or your retirement account. Okay. The next part of this paying yourself first category is what I call your opportunity fund. Okay. This is also investing, and it is investing for current income. Okay. So current income, passive income. You've got things going that is initially took some work for you to get going, but then it pays you passively. Okay. This can be done in a ton of ways. Okay. It can be done through real estate. It can be done through investing in other businesses. It can be done through all kinds of investing, crypto, art, whatever, but it's all dividend stocks, covered calls, options. It can be done through all of these things, right? Trading, but it's current income. Okay. And it is income. Okay. Yes. Initially you may do some work to have that income start to flow in. And then later on you don't have to do the work. So you do the work, you set it up and it flows in. Now you don't set it and forget it forever. Even with passive income, you still have to go back and check things every now and then. You have to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing for that passive income is still relevant, right? Because some things can come and some things can go. So you do have to keep an eye on it. Okay. It's just that you may not have to do as much work as you did initially setting it up. So this could also look like, I've got an online course, okay, that I set up. I took time, I took work and put that course together. It's online now. And now people can just go to a link, they sign up. There's nothing, I don't have to show up for the class. I don't have to do anything. People just consume the content. They pay for it, consume the content. That's passive. Okay. So those are some types of things that can be done as well. Okay. So all of that is in your opportunity fund. Okay. Then you have life insurance. All right. And some people might think like, well, how does life insurance end up in the pay yourself first category? Well, as you are building wealth, okay, if you do not have wealth built yet, you have to have something that in case something happens to you before you have the opportunity to build wealth, you have something where you can pass on wealth to your beneficiaries. Okay. That could be spouse, that could be children, whomever your beneficiaries are. And so life insurance is a way to do that. It creates instant, okay? It's an instant estate, so to speak, okay? Once you pass, your beneficiary gets that check. Hopefully, You have taught them well about how to work with their money, or at least shown them who they can trust and go to learn how to do so, so that when they get that money, they know exactly what to do with it, right? That they would be doing the same things that you were doing. So, anyhow, those are the four categories. Now, I want to go back and I want to talk um, what percentage of this category should be what, okay? And remember that these numbers are rough. Everybody's situation is different. These are just going to be like some general breakdowns, but everybody's situation is different, okay? So you may not necessarily be able to take these percentages and run with them today. Or you might. I don't know, because I don't know your personal situation. But I just kind of want to give you an idea of how this works. Okay. So, overall, this category of paying yourself first should be 20% of your income. That's right. It should be 20% of your income. Now, in all my years of doing financial coaching, what I find is that this category is well below the 20%. With most people that I sit down with, it is well below the 20%. In fact, many people don't even make it out of the single digits because people are just not saving. People are just not investing. People are not having their emergency funds. They're just not doing it, right? And so many people will have reasons as to why they're not doing it. They feel like they don't make enough. They feel like, they got to get all the bills paid first. They feel like, lots of things, right? And or they try, they put money in, but they keep going and taking money out. And so they just don't do what they're supposed to do in this category. Okay. So, first thing is that you have to make a decision. How important is this to you? Because anything that is very important to us, guess what? We're going to make sure that it's getting done. Okay. If it's very important to you to, I don't know, travel to Hawaii, right? Like it's super important to you, you are going to find ways to get it done. Okay. If your family is super important to you, it's like they're like high on your values list. Maybe it's God and then family and then work, or however it falls for you. You're going to make sure, okay, that that you make sure that the family is taken care of. It is a decision that you have made beforehand. It is a value that you have, and so you're going to make sure that that is taken care of. Well, having a pay yourself first mindset and having that actually play out in real life has to be a value. It has to be a decision that is made up front, because if it's not, it just won't happen. And it doesn't matter how much you make, because I have worked with so many people who have made little and people who have more than enough. And on either end, none of them, are doing what they are supposed to do when it comes to paying themselves first. Okay. Another reason we have been conditioned to, hey, take care of everything else first. You got time to work out your own retirement. You got time to save for this, time to save for that, or for whatever reasons, it's just not that important, right? Because we have been conditioned that paying the bills first and other things are much more important. We have been conditioned that, hey, let's just go have fun. We don't care, throw everything else to the wind, right? Either because we're trying to impress people, or even if we're not trying to impress people, we just want to, we're not thinking about tomorrow. Okay. So in order to be successful at this, it has to become a priority. It has to be a value. It has to be a decision that you make where you said, this is what I'm going to do. And that's it. There is no negotiating. There is no compromising. It's just going to get done. I often tell people, listen, if you decide that you want to go to school and get a degree, for the most part, you're like, that's what I'm doing, and that's what you do, right? And so we can be like that in so many areas, but then when it comes to our finances, we're like, oh, I don't know what happens. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I can't do it. It's because it's not a priority. So it's never about how much money you make. Okay. It's about how much money you keep. You don't have to be making what we used to say buku money to to um, to do this. Okay. All right. So let's go back and talk about these. Your emergency fund. Now, initially, depending on where you are. Now, if you're someone who your emergency fund is very low or non-existent, then the 20% of your income. Let's just work with some real numbers. Maybe that will help to make sure that things are clear. Okay. So we said your income was $6,000 per month, right? If you've got your notebooks, write this down. So if your income is $6,000 per month, 20% of that is $1,200. Okay. So $1,200 should be going to your pay yourself first account. Okay. And yes, I said account because you can actually have different accounts, which I usually recommend to my private clients. I recommend them having these it's actually 5 different accounts. So one account where all the income comes in, and then they will have a pay yourself first account, and then the other 3 that we'll be talking about in the weeks upcoming. Okay. So in your pay yourself first account, every time you get paid, okay, $1,200 should be going, we're doing this by the month, okay? But $1,200 per month should be going into your pay yourself first account. This $1,200 is a percentage. It is 20% of your income, okay? So why do we do percentages and we don't do dollar amounts? Because the dollar amounts can change, okay? Especially if you own a business, all right? I talk to a lot of women who own businesses, okay? And so your income can be different every month. And so that's why we set up our allocations based on percentages, okay? So 20% of your income is $1,200 per month. You've got $1,200 for your pay yourself first account. Within that pay yourself first account, the things that are coming out of there are your life insurance, your emergency fund, your opportunity fund, and your retirement or your long-term investing. Those 4 things. Now, how do we split up this $1,200 amongst these 4 things? Well, there isn't any hard and fast rule. Like I said, everybody's situation is different. But I'm going to give an example based on someone whose emergency fund is pretty low or non-existent. Okay. In fact, and they may be saving for retirement, maybe through a 401k. Maybe they're not giving a lot of money, but there's some money coming out of each of their pay to go towards a 401k. Okay. So that $1,200 might be divvied up something like this, right? 50% of that $1,200 may be going to an emergency fund. Okay. So what is 50% of 1,200? $600. Okay. So $600 a month that is going to that emergency fund. Okay. And why 50%? Why is that so high? Because really the emergency fund is like priority. Okay. That is so actually, if I did it in priority, the first thing would be to get your life insurance. Okay. So let's start there. I'll come back to the emergency fund. The first thing would be to get your life insurance. If you have none of this set up, the first thing would be to get your life insurance. That would be the very first move. Okay. Why is that the first move? We are not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not even guaranteed the next hour. Okay. So that would be the priority, because in the Bible, it talks about God's desire for us to leave an inheritance to our children and our children's children. Okay, so if we have not yet built any wealth, then life insurance is a way to do that. And it's a way to make sure that if something should happen to us before we have the opportunity to create wealth, then life insurance can be that avenue for creating what we call an immediate estate for our beneficiaries. Okay. So life insurance. Now, life insurance should be 6% of that pot. Okay, so 6% of that 1,200, we can do the math. 6% of that 1,200 is $72 if I did that right. Okay, so 1,200, let me do it one more time, times 6%, $72 per month roughly is what you should be spending on your life insurance. Now, I always advocate term life insurance for just straight up death and burial. Okay. Then I recommend an IUL for wealth building, different type of thing. Okay. But for just straight up death and burial, term insurance, it's going to be cheaper, much more straightforward. Okay. So this, according to this, should be 72%. Now, if you have dependents, okay, then it is you add another percent for each dependent. Okay, this is what you should have minimally in life insurance. Okay, so let's say you have 4 children. Okay, you would have the 6% plus 1 for each child. That's going to bring you to 10%. So 10% of your pay yourself first category should be going towards life insurance. Okay. If it's just you and you don't have any children, 6%. Okay. Now, that's the first move that I would make. If I don't have that, that is the first thing that I'm getting. Okay. Then the next is your emergency fund. And this is if you have to work on things like kind of one at a time. Okay. The next is the emergency fund. That is extremely important because things happen, right? The furnace goes out, the tire blows, and that happened to me this weekend, right? The tire blows, the just all kinds of stuff can go wrong. The refrigerator motor stopped running, right? All kinds of things can just happen. This is what happens, okay? And so we need to be prepared for that. And if you're not prepared for it, hey, Pastor Matthew, good to see you. If you're not prepared for it, then that money has to come from somewhere. All right. So for most people, it's either coming from a bill or people go take out a loan. Okay. Whether they borrow from friends or family or whether they borrow, some type of payday loan or some type of, something. It's coming from somewhere and it's actually putting you in a rut. Okay. So this is the importance of having an emergency fund. It's really, when you start to borrow on things like that, it just kind of puts you in this loop and you don't want to be there. Okay. So it's very important that you're setting aside money for an emergency fund. So we already said life insurance should be about 6%. Okay. And then add 1% for every child that you have. Now, how much should your emergency fund be? How much of that 1,200 should be going to the emergency fund? 50%. We talked about that already. So that's 600. Okay. So we've got $672 minimally that has already been accounted for. Life insurance, emergency. Then another 30% should be going to your long-term retirement wealth building account. Okay. 30%. So what is 30% of 1,200? Well, 30% of 1,200 is 360. Okay. So for those of you who are just joining us, we are just kind of working out this allocating. We're talking about allocating. We're doing the first doesn't have to be the first, but it's the category that we chose to talk about first today, which is your pay yourself first category. And we are working with if your income was $6,000 per month. Okay, so that's what there's where this math is coming from. This category of pay yourself first should be 20% of your income. So we said income was 6,000. So 1,200 is 20%. And that's what we're working on. Okay. Life insurance should be 6% of that 1,200, or 6%. And if you have children, add 1% for each child. Your emergency fund should be 50% of that 1,200. Okay. Roughly. Okay. Again, I want to say it as I said at the top, I don't know your personal situation. Okay. So these numbers may not necessarily work for you. Everybody's numbers is different. I'm just trying to give you a general idea of how this works. Okay. So now you've got 50% going to emergency fund, and now we want another 30% going towards our long-term investing. Okay. 300 and that works out to be $360 per month that is going towards retirement. Okay. And then the last category is the opportunity fund, and that is, investing for any kind of current income or passive income, things of that nature. Okay. And that is going to be minimally 14%. Okay. Minimally, that's going to be 14%. All right. Now, as you begin to build up your emergency fund, and let's say now you've got, 3 months or 6 months in there, the allocations can change. So maybe you don't necessarily need to put 50% in there anymore. Now you can change it, and maybe now it becomes the 30%, and now you increase your long term, okay, your retirement to 50%. Okay. It's gonna vary based on people's situations. And this is why my private clients come to me. Okay, because it's like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this, but how do I know what percentage to allocate to what based on my situation? Okay. So this is one of the reasons why my private clients will come to me, because I work all these numbers out for them, and then they just have to follow the plan, right? And so that is the breakdown for the pay yourself first category. Okay. So let's review really quickly. What is the pay yourself first category? Okay. What is that? What does that mean to pay yourself first? For those of you who are watching, drop it in the comments. Let me know. What does it mean to pay yourself first? What does that mean? What kinds of things are in the pay yourself first category? Okay, now if you've been watching, this should be easy peasy. Okay, I've actually reviewed it about 2 or 3 times. Okay, in this short amount of time. What is in your pay yourself first category? All right, in your pay yourself first category is, and if you're getting ready to put things in the comments, keep going. Okay. I know that there's this delay sometimes. So if you're getting ready to put it in the comments, please keep going ahead. Go ahead, put it in the comments. But I'm going to move forward because I can't just sit here and wait for the delay. It would be really weird. So life insurance, your emergency fund, your wealth building account, and your opportunity fund. In that order. If you could only do one thing at a time, it would be in that order. Okay. And then we said that you would break down that pay yourself first category. You would break it down in percentages as well, right? So we talked about how one person might break it down. The percentages are going to be different. What percent I do to emergency, to life insurance, to my retirement, and my opportunity investing is going to vary because everybody's situation is different. Okay. But overall, we know that 20% of my income is going to this pay myself first category. And the pay myself first category is made up of my life insurance, my opportunity fund, my emergency fund, and my retirement. Okay. Are there any questions? I'm hoping that it was pretty, that you all were grasping what I was saying, that you were taking notes. Okay. So that you can begin to actually implement these things in your finances. And if you are wondering, well, how do I become one of your private clients, Lexi? Then you can get on my calendar for a 30-minute consult. And I think it's already in the comments, but I'm going to go ahead and put it again. Okay. So you can get on my calendar for a 30-minute consult, and then we can talk about what your needs are. That's interesting that it responded that way. I think I'm on the wrong page for sure. I am. Oh my goodness. Went to the church page instead of the money mastery for her. Anyway, I'll have to fix that later. So anyway, you can get on my calendar, and then we can talk about your specific situation and whether or not we are mutually a good fit to work with one another, and then what would working with one another looks like. Okay, there are various ways in which we can do that to cover various different budgets. So don't be afraid to schedule an appointment, that 30-minute consult, and let's just see, right? It'll never hurt. It's a conversation, right? All right. So if there aren't any questions, all is well. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, please make sure to drop them in the comments. I will definitely come back and answer those questions. All right. Okay, well, here's what's coming up in MM4H World. We have our Women's Spring Bible Study, our Spring Bible Study coming up starting in March. So the link for that is in the description. We also are coming up upon our deadline for the Botswana mission team application. So if you would like to serve on the mission team this year, we're going to Botswana in August of 2024. The link is in the description as well. The link for our merch is in the description, and there are a couple of other links there. So, check everything out. Get in where you fit in, and I'm going to get out of here. We'll talk to you next time. All right. Peace.